The sun hangs low over the East African Rift Valley, casting long shadows across a landscape that would be utterly alien to modern eyes. It is 2.9 million years ago, and the world belongs to creatures that have never known the touch of human civilization. Here, along the banks of an ancient river system that will one day become part of the modern Homo River Basin, a drama is about to unfold that will test the very limits of what it means to be human. The air shimmers with heat. Temperature hovers near 40 degrees Celsius, typical for this late afternoon in what we might call the Pliocene epoch. But the creature crouched at the water's edge knows nothing of epochs or geological time. She knows only thirst, hunger, and the constant vigilance required to survive another day. She is approximately 1 meter tall, weighing perhaps 30 kilograms. Her kind has no name for themselves, but millions of years in the future, paleontologists will call her species Homo habilis, the handyman, the first member of our own genus. Her face is still remarkably ape-like, with a protruding jaw and a sloping forehead, but her eyes hold something different, something that sets her apart from every other creature drinking at this river. Intelligence. Not the intelligence of speech or written language, not the ability to contemplate her own existence, but something more fundamental, the capacity to plan, to remember, to learn from experience. Her hands, those remarkable hands that give her species its scientific name, are longer and more dexterous than those of her Australopithecine ancestors. The opposable thumb is fully developed, capable of the precision grip that will eventually build pyramids and spacecraft. But today, those hands grip only a simple tool, a piece of volcanic rock she struck against another stone until it formed a crude but effective cutting edge. She approaches the water slowly, cautiously. Every instinct screams danger. The river is life, but it is also death. She has seen what happens to those who are careless at the water's edge. Just 3 days ago, one of the younger members of her small band, a juvenile male barely past adolescence, ventured too close during the hottest part of the day. The water erupted. There was a brief struggle, a spray of crimson mist catching the sunlight, and then nothing. Only ripples spreading across the surface, as if the river itself had decided to swallow the young male whole. But thirst is a powerful force, more powerful even than fear. She is not drunk since yesterday morning, and the East African sun shows no mercy. Her tongue feels thick in her mouth, her lips cracked and painful. The other members of her band, 5 individuals in total, including 2 juveniles, wait in the sparse acacia trees 30 meters back from the water's edge. They watch her with wide eyes, ready to flee at the slightest sign of danger. This is the burden of being the most experienced, the most skilled at reading the signs of danger. She must test the waters first, literally and figuratively. Leadership among her kind is not about dominance displays or aggressive posturing. It is about survival, about making the decisions that keep the group alive another day. She crouches, extending one hand to touch the water's surface. It is warm, almost body temperature, and slightly turbid with suspended sediment. The river is lower than it was during the last rainy season, exposing mudflats and sandbars that provide both opportunity and danger. Opportunity, because the receding waters have trapped fish in shallow pools. Danger, because predators know this too. Her eyes scan the surface constantly, looking for the telltale signs. A line of ripples moving against the current, the knobby protrusions of eyes and nostrils barely breaking the surface. The sudden absence of the small birds that normally wade in the shallows, pecking for insects and fish. Any of these could signal the presence of what her kind has learned to fear more than lions, more than leopards, more than any of the land predators that stalk the savanna. The crocodile. But not just any crocodile. The species that inhabits this ancient river system is Crocodilus anthropophagus, a name future scientists will give it that literally means man-eating crocodile. These animals are larger, more aggressive, and more adapted to hunting terrestrial prey than their modern descendants. An adult male can reach lengths of 6 meters or more, weighing close to 1,000 kilograms. They are ambush predators, perfected by millions of years of evolution, capable of explosive bursts of speed, both in water and on land, armed with jaws that can generate bite forces exceeding 16,000 newtons, enough to crush bone like dry wood. She sees nothing, hears nothing but the gentle lap of water against the muddy bank and the distant call of a fish eagle. The river seems peaceful, inviting even. She knows this is an illusion. The river is never peaceful. It merely waits. She makes her decision. Cupping both hands, she dips them quickly into the water, bringing them to her mouth in a rapid, practiced motion. The water is warm and slightly gritty, but it is life itself flowing down her parched throat. She drinks again and again, each time moving slightly, never staying in one position long enough to become predictable. This is when it happens. 15 meters upstream, so subtle she almost misses it, the water surface breaks. Not dramatically, not with the violent explosion of a hunting crocodile, but with the slow, deliberate stealth of a predator that has all the time in the world. 2 dark bumps appear, barely visible in the late afternoon light. Eyes, watching, calculating. She freezes, every muscle in her body locked in place. This is the nightmare scenario, the situation that has killed so many of her kind. She is exposed, vulnerable, with deep water at her back and 30 meters of open ground between her and the safety of the trees. The crocodile has already seen her, of that she is certain. The question now is whether it will strike immediately or continue its slow, patient approach. The eyes move closer, imperceptibly at first, then with increasing confidence. 20 meters, 15. She can see the textured surface of the animal's snout now, covered in sensory pits that can detect the slightest vibration in the water. This is a large individual, perhaps 5 meters in length, a mature adult in its prime. The kind of animal that has successfully hunted creatures far larger and more dangerous than a small hominin. She does not run. Running triggers the chase response in predators, and she knows with absolute certainty that she cannot outrun a crocodile over 30 meters of open ground. These animals can achieve speeds of 15 to 20 kilometers per hour in short bursts on land, and her own top speed is perhaps 12 to 14 kilometers per hour, slowed by her bipedal gait and the uneven terrain. Instead, she does something that speaks to the emerging intelligence of her species. She slowly, deliberately, picks up a rock the size of her fist from the water's edge. Not her cutting tool, which she has carefully set aside, but a simple throwing stone. Her hands are shaking, adrenaline flooding her system with the raw chemical imperative to flee, but she forces herself to remain still, to think, to plan. The crocodile is 10 meters away now. Its entire head is visible above the water, and she can see the massive body beneath the surface, a dark shadow that seems to extend forever. This is not a quick ambush strike. This is a calculated approach. The animal assessing whether the small figure at the water's edge is prey or threat. And then, with a violence that seems to tear the very fabric of reality, the crocodile explodes from the water. The attack is not aimed at her directly. Instead, the massive animal drives itself halfway out of the water and onto the muddy bank, a display of raw power meant to terrorize, to trigger the flight response, to send the prey scrambling in panic toward the deeper water where the crocodile has every advantage. She does run, but not toward the water. She runs laterally, parallel to the riverbank, and as she runs, she hurls the rock with all her strength. It is not an accurate throw, but it does not need to be. The rock strikes the crocodile's snout with a dull thunk, and the animal recoils, more from surprise than pain. This moment of hesitation saves her life. She covers 10 meters in less than 3 seconds, her powerful leg muscles driving her across the uneven ground with desperate efficiency. Behind her, she hears the sound that will haunt the nightmares of her species for millions of years to come. The heavy slap of a massive tail against mud, the scrape of claws finding purchase on solid ground, the explosive exhalation of breath as 1,000 kilograms of predator launches itself in pursuit. The crocodile is faster than she is. This is an inescapable fact. Over open ground, it will run her down in seconds. But she has 3 advantages. First, her endurance. Crocodiles are sprint hunters, capable of tremendous bursts of speed, but unable to maintain that pace for more than a few dozen meters. Second, her agility. She can turn, dodge, change direction in ways that the massive reptile cannot. And third, most importantly, her ability to anticipate, to plan, to use the terrain to her advantage. She does not run in a straight line toward the trees. Instead, she angles toward a large boulder that protrudes from the ground like a broken tooth. It is perhaps 1.5 meters tall, weathered basalt left over from some ancient volcanic eruption. As she reaches it, she does not try to climb over it. Instead, she darts around its far side, using it as a barrier between herself and her pursuer. The crocodile, committed to its charge, cannot turn quickly enough. It slams into the boulder with tremendous force, and she hears the impact even as she continues running. The animal is not injured. Its armored hide and massive skull are built to withstand far greater impacts. But it is momentarily stunned, confused by prey that does not behave according to the ancient patterns programmed into its brain. She gains precious seconds. 20 meters to the trees. 15. She can hear her band calling, urgent vocalizations that have no words but carry meaning nonetheless. Warning, encouragement, fear. The crocodile recovers and resumes its pursuit, but now she is in range of the trees. She does not slow down. She has seen crocodiles climb over logs and through brush in pursuit of prey. The trees offer safety only if she can reach the higher branches, beyond the reach of those terrible jaws. She leaps, catching a low branch with both hands, and pulls herself up with a strength born of pure desperation. Her feet leave the ground just as the crocodile's jaws snap shut on empty air, the sound like the crack of a breaking tree limb. She can feel the displacement of air from the strike, so close that individual drops of saliva spatter against her legs. Higher. She must climb higher. The crocodile is not finished. It rears up against the tree trunk, its massive front legs scrabbling against the bark, its jaws gaping wide to reveal a forest of conical teeth, each one designed to grip and hold rather than slice. She climbs frantically, using every ounce of her arboreal heritage, the skills that her Australopithecine ancestors refined over millions of years of living in trees. Finally, she reaches a branch 3 meters above the ground, well beyond the reach of even this massive predator. She clings to it, her chest heaving, her heart pounding so hard she can feel it in her throat. Below her, the crocodile paces back and forth, its cold eyes tracking her every movement. It shows no emotion, no frustration, no anger. It is simply a force of nature, patient and implacable. The other members of her band call out, agitated and frightened, but they do not flee. This is significant. An Australopithecine group might have scattered at the first sign of danger, each individual seeking its own safety. But her kind is beginning to develop something new: group cohesion in the face of threat, the understanding that safety lies not just in flight, but in staying together. As her breathing slowly returns to normal, as the adrenaline begins to ebb from her system, she looks down at the crocodile. It has settled into a waiting posture, its body half in shadow beneath the tree. And in this moment, she understands something profound. This is not over. The crocodile is not leaving. It is settling in for a siege, a waiting game that it has played countless times before. Prey that escapes to the trees must eventually come down. Either they descend voluntarily, driven by hunger or thirst or the need to defecate, or they fall asleep and lose their grip. Either way, the crocodile knows it needs only to wait. The sun continues its descent toward the horizon, and the shadows grow longer. In the distance, a troop of baboons begins their evening chorus, a reminder that night is coming. Night in the East African savanna is a different kind of danger, with leopards and lions emerging from their daytime rest to hunt. But those predators rarely climb trees, and when they do, they are not patient. They strike, or they move on. The crocodile, however, shows no signs of moving. It has found prey, and it will wait. For hours, for days if necessary. This is a battle of wills, of endurance, of survival strategies honed by millions of years of evolution. She shifts her position on the branch, trying to find a more comfortable perch. Her legs are already beginning to ache from the awkward position, and she knows this is only the beginning. The other members of her band have climbed into adjacent trees, seeking safety, but also maintaining their group cohesion. They cannot help her directly, but their presence provides a strange comfort, a reminder that she is not entirely alone in this struggle. As darkness begins to fall, the reality of her situation becomes clear. She is trapped. The crocodile has ensured that she cannot reach water without passing within its strike range. Even if she could somehow bypass this particular predator, the river is likely home to others. Her band cannot survive without water, and she cannot lead them to it while she herself is pinned in this tree. This is no longer just about survival. This has become something else entirely. A test of intelligence versus instinct, innovation versus evolutionary programming. The emerging human mind against the perfected killing machine of the crocodile. The first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, and somewhere in the distance, a hyena laughs its eerie, almost human call. The night is coming, and with it, the first hours of what will become a 48-hour ordeal that neither human nor crocodile will forget, assuming either survives to remember. She adjusts her grip on the branch and settles in to wait, her mind already working on the problem, already searching for solutions that her ancestors would never have considered. Because that is what makes her Homo, what separates her from everything that came before. She can think ahead. She can plan. She can imagine possibilities that do not yet exist. And somewhere in that remarkable brain, in those newly enlarged neural structures that evolution is only beginning to experiment with, an idea is forming. Desperate, dangerous, but possible. The battle for survival has truly begun. The night of calculations. The last light bleeds from the western sky, transforming the landscape into a realm of shadows and silver. The moon, 3/4 full, rises over the distant volcanic peaks that dominate the eastern horizon. It casts enough light to see by, but not enough to feel safe. This is the dangerous time, the threshold between day and night, when the hunters change shifts, when both diurnal and nocturnal predators might be active, when the world belongs to neither the sun nor the stars. She has been in the tree for nearly 2 hours now. Her muscles scream in protest, particularly in her lower back and thighs. The human body, even in its earliest form, is not designed for prolonged immobility in awkward positions. Her ancestors could sleep in trees, but they did so by finding comfortable branches, by spreading their weight, by relaxing into the support the tree provided. She cannot relax. Every moment requires active engagement of her muscles to maintain her perch, to avoid falling into the jaws waiting below. The crocodile has not moved. It lies beneath the tree like a fallen log, so still that in the growing darkness it might be mistaken for a piece of the landscape itself. But she knows better. She can see the occasional blink of its nictitating membrane, that translucent third eyelid that protects the eye while allowing the animal to see underwater. She can hear the slow, measured breathing, the almost imperceptible hiss of air moving through those powerful lungs. The animal is conserving energy, entering a state of patient watchfulness that it can maintain for days if necessary. Above her, in the higher branches, something moves. She tenses, her head snapping up, every sense suddenly alert. But it is only a bush baby, one of the small nocturnal primates that share these woodlands. The creature's enormous eyes reflect the moonlight as it stares at her. Then it leaps away into the darkness with effortless grace. She watches it go with something that might be envy. The bush baby weighs perhaps 200 grams. It can leap between trees, can access food sources and water that are forever beyond her reach. It is perfectly adapted to the arboreal life she has partially abandoned. This is the price of terrestriality, of coming down from the trees to walk upright on the savanna. Her kind has gained so much by this evolutionary gamble: freedom of movement across the landscape, the ability to see over tall grass, hands free to carry food, tools, infants, the efficiency of bipedal locomotion over long distances. But they have also lost the safety that the trees once provided, the ability to live entirely above the reach of the great predators. Now they are caught between worlds, not quite terrestrial enough to outrun the predators of the open plains, not quite arboreal enough to live safely in the canopy. Vulnerable in ways that their Australopithecine cousins are not, but with advantages that are only beginning to reveal themselves. She shifts her weight carefully, moving to a slightly different position to relieve the burning in her muscles. This draws the crocodile's attention immediately. Even in the darkness, even from 3 meters away, it tracks her movement with those cold, calculating eyes. The message is clear. I am watching. I am waiting. I will not forget. The other members of her band have settled into their own trees. She can hear them moving occasionally, the rustle of leaves, the creak of branches. The 2 juveniles are in the same tree, huddled together for comfort and warmth. Even though the day was scorching, the night temperature will drop significantly, perhaps to 15 degrees or lower. Her kind has not yet evolved the subcutaneous fat deposits that will help later humans retain heat. They have no fire, no clothing, no shelter beyond what the trees provide. The night will be cold and uncomfortable. But cold is the least of her concerns. The more immediate problem is water. She has drunk only those few hasty gulps before the crocodile revealed itself. Her body is still dehydrated from yesterday's exertions, from the relentless sun, from the simple metabolic demands of staying alive in this harsh environment. She can feel her thirst growing, a dull ache in her throat that will become increasingly difficult to ignore. The juveniles will fare even worse. Their smaller bodies dehydrate more quickly, their reserves are less. By tomorrow afternoon, they will be in serious distress. By the day after that, they may begin to die. This is not dramatic speculation. This is simple physiology. A human, even a modern human with greater fat reserves and more efficient cooling systems, can survive perhaps 3 to 4 days without water in moderate conditions. In this heat, with this level of activity, that time is cut in half. She must find a solution. But what? The obvious answer is to wait out the crocodile, to hope that hunger or some other imperative drives it away from the tree. But she knows from experience that this is unlikely. Crocodiles can go weeks without eating, sometimes months. They are cold-blooded, their metabolism slow and efficient. This animal has probably eaten recently, given its robust condition and the fact that it had the energy for that explosive charge. It can afford to wait far longer than she can. Another option is to flee during the night, to hope that the darkness provides cover. But this is extremely dangerous. Crocodiles hunt effectively at night, their eyes adapted to low light conditions, their other senses heightened to detect vibrations and movement. And even if she could somehow evade the crocodile, there are other nocturnal predators to consider. Leopards, in particular, are active hunters during these hours, and they are accomplished climbers. She has seen a leopard take a full-grown antelope from a tree branch. Her 30 kilograms would present no challenge at all. She could try to lead the band away from the river entirely, to seek water elsewhere. But the nearest permanent water source is at least 3 days' walk away. 3 days across open savanna, exposed to sun and predators. The juveniles would never survive the journey. Even the adults would be pushed to their limits. No, there must be another way. She turns the problem over in her mind, examining it from different angles, drawing on memories of past experiences, on observations made during her few years of life. The crocodile is strong, but it has limitations. On land, it can sprint quickly, but only for short distances. Its body is designed for the water, for the lateral undulations that propel it through the depths with surprising speed and grace. On solid ground, it is powerful but awkward, its legs splayed out to the sides, its belly dragging. She has seen crocodiles on land before, has watched them haul themselves up muddy banks or cross short stretches of ground between water sources. They are formidable, but they are not invincible. The river itself is not uniform. There are shallows and deeps, sandbars and channels. Just 50 meters downstream, she recalls seeing an area where the water spreads out over a wide, flat expanse of sand and gravel, creating a ford barely knee-deep. During the dry season, herbivores cross there regularly, their tracks crisscrossing the mudflats. She has never seen a large crocodile in that area. The water is too shallow for effective hunting, too exposed for a successful ambush. But to reach that ford, she would have to leave the safety of the tree, would have to cross open ground with the crocodile surely in pursuit. And even if she reached the shallow water, there is no guarantee of safety. Crocodiles can attack in water only centimeters deep if they are motivated enough. She needs an advantage. She needs something that will slow the crocodile, distract it, give her enough of a lead to reach the ford and cross to the other side. Once across the river, she and her band could move inland, away from the water's edge, reducing the risk of further crocodile encounters while still remaining within reach of the river for when they need to drink again. Her hand moves unconsciously to the cutting tool still tucked into the rough hide she wears around her waist. It is not much, just a piece of hide taken from a gazelle carcass they scavenged last week, tied with strips of dried grass. But it serves to carry small items, including this precious tool. The tool itself is unremarkable by later human standards. It is a core from which several flakes have been struck, creating sharp edges along one side. No symmetry, no planning beyond the immediate goal of creating a cutting edge. She made it herself 2 days ago, using a technique she learned by watching an older member of her band, now dead, killed by a lion 3 months past. But as she turns the stone over in her hands, feeling its weight, testing its edges with her thumb, an idea begins to form. It is not fully developed, more an intuition than a plan. But it is something, a possibility. She looks down at the crocodile, then out toward the river, then back at the stone in her hands. Her brain, that remarkable organ that has grown 40% larger than her Australopithecine ancestors, works through the problem with a speed and complexity that would be impossible for any other creature alive at this moment in Earth's history. Crocodiles have armor, thick hide reinforced with osteoderms, bony plates embedded in the skin. But they also have vulnerable areas: the eyes, the throat, the soft tissue around the legs where the scales are smaller and more flexible. She has seen other predators exploit these weaknesses. Lions sometimes blind crocodiles during disputes over carcasses. Leopards go for the throat. Even the powerful jaws themselves have a weakness. While they can bite down with tremendous force, the muscles that open the jaws are relatively weak. She has heard stories, passed down through her band, of how the crocodile's mouth can be held shut by a determined attacker. But she is not a lion or a leopard. She weighs 30 kilograms against the crocodile's 500 or more. A direct confrontation would be suicide. Unless she does not fight on the crocodile's terms. The idea crystallizes suddenly, with a clarity that surprises her. It is audacious. It is dangerous. It may not work. But it is the only path she can see that does not end in death by thirst or death by predation. She will not wait for the crocodile to leave. She will not try to sneak past it in the darkness. She will not lead her band on a desperate march across the waterless savanna. She will attack. Not with teeth or claws, not with brute strength or speed. She will attack with something the crocodile has never encountered before, something its millions of years of evolution have not prepared it for. She will attack with preparation, with tools, with tactics, with intelligence. The details are not yet clear. She does not have a complete plan, not in the way a modern human might sketch out a strategy with all contingencies considered. But she has the beginning of something, and as the night deepens and the cold settles into her bones, she begins to refine it, to think through the steps, to imagine the sequence of actions that might, just might, allow her to survive. Around her, the nocturnal sounds of the savanna grow in volume. Insects chirp and buzz. A distant elephant trumpets, calling to its herd. Hyenas whoop and laugh as they begin their nightly hunt. The world is alive with danger and possibility. She reaches out slowly, careful not to disturb the branch enough to alert the crocodile below, and breaks off a thin, straight twig about as long as her forearm. It is green wood, flexible but strong. She tests it, bending it slightly, gauging its properties. Then she breaks off another and another. She works quietly, methodically, her hands moving with a sureness that belies the fear still coursing through her veins. The crocodile watches, but does not react. Why should it? The prey is still in the tree, still trapped, still helpless. What could small twigs possibly do against armor and teeth and 500 kilograms of muscle? But the crocodile, for all its evolutionary perfection, cannot imagine what she is imagining, cannot conceive of what those hands, those remarkable hands, can do with the simplest materials, cannot understand that the small creature in the tree is capable of something entirely new in the history of life on this planet. She is planning, not just reacting to immediate threats, not just following instinctive patterns laid down by evolution. She is envisioning a future scenario, identifying the steps needed to reach that future, and preparing the tools to make it possible. This is what it means to be Homo. This is the revolution that will eventually conquer the planet, that will build civilizations and split atoms and venture into space. But tonight, it is focused on a much simpler goal. Tonight, it must outwit a crocodile. As the moon climbs higher in the sky, as the Southern Cross wheels overhead marking the passage of hours, she continues her preparations. The other members of her band sleep fitfully in their trees, but she does not sleep. She cannot afford to. Every moment is precious. Every second of preparation increases her chances of survival by some infinitesimal but crucial amount. By the time the first gray light of false dawn begins to illuminate the eastern sky, she has gathered a collection of materials. Twigs and branches of various sizes. Several stones she managed to find within reach, lodged in the junction of branches where birds had dropped them. A length of fibrous vine that she stripped from the tree trunk. Nothing that would seem significant to an outside observer. But to her, these are the tools of survival. The crocodile has not moved all night. It has been there for nearly 10 hours now, patient and implacable. She is exhausted, her muscles trembling with fatigue, her throat parched and painful. But her mind is clear, focused by necessity and by the adrenaline that still flows in measured doses through her system. She looks toward the horizon, watching the sky lighten from black to gray to pale blue. The sun will rise soon, and with it will come heat and thirst, and the increasing desperation of the juveniles. She estimates she has perhaps 12 hours before the juveniles become dangerously dehydrated, perhaps 24 before the adults reach the same point, and 48 hours, 2 full rotations of the sun, before death becomes a real possibility for all of them. 48 hours to outwit a predator that has ruled these waters for millions of years. 48 hours to prove that intelligence can triumph over instinct, that planning can defeat patience, that the new can overcome the ancient. The sun breaks over the horizon, and the savanna explodes into color and sound. Birds call their morning songs. The air begins to warm immediately, promising another day of brutal heat. And beneath the tree, The crocodile's eyes glitter in the new light, watching, waiting, utterly confident in the mathematics of survival that have always favored the patient hunter. But this time, the mathematics are changing. This time, one of the variables has evolved beyond the crocodile's understanding. And by the time the sun sets again, the ancient equation of predator and prey will have been permanently altered. The battle enters its second phase. The strategy of desperation. The sun climbs rapidly, and with it comes the heat. By mid-morning, the temperature has already reached 35 degrees Celsius and continues to rise. The tree that provides safety from the crocodile offers almost no protection from the sun. The acacia's sparse canopy, designed by evolution to minimize water loss through transpiration, provides only dappled shade. The light that filters through strikes her skin in patches, and she can feel each ray like a physical weight. Thirst is no longer a mere discomfort. It has become a presence, a constant companion that demands attention with every breath. Her tongue feels swollen. Her lips are cracked and bleeding in small places where the dry skin has split. When she tries to swallow, her throat clicks painfully, the tissues too dehydrated to function smoothly. She has not urinated since yesterday morning, a clear sign that her body is conserving every possible drop of moisture. The juveniles are worse. She can hear them whimpering softly in their tree, sounds of distress that they try to suppress but cannot entirely control. They are perhaps 4 and 5 years old, still dependent on the adults for protection and guidance. Their small bodies have fewer reserves, less ability to regulate temperature, higher metabolic demands relative to their size. The older one, a female, keeps trying to lick the morning dew from the leaves around her, but the moisture evaporated hours ago, leaving only the bitter taste of dust and insect residue. The other adults, 2 males and 1 female, remain silent. They watch her, waiting for some signal, some indication of what to do. This is not a formal hierarchy, not leadership in the way that later human societies will understand it, but there is a recognition of experience, of capability. She has kept them alive through encounters with lions, has found water during the worst of the dry season, has shown them which plants are safe to eat and which will cause violent illness. They trust her to find a solution because she has found solutions before. But this is different. This is a problem unlike any they have faced, and she knows that trust alone will not save them. She needs action. She needs a plan that works, not just a plan that sounds reasonable in the abstract safety of imagination. She looks down at the crocodile. It has moved slightly, repositioning itself to remain in the shade cast by the tree trunk. The movement was slow, deliberate, economical. The animal is comfortable. It can remain here indefinitely, while her band counts their remaining hours in increasingly desperate increments. The materials she gathered during the night lie arranged on the branch beside her. She picks up one of the longer twigs, about the length of her arm from elbow to fingertip, and examines it closely. The wood is green and flexible, not yet dried by the sun. She tests it, bending it into a curve, feeling how much pressure it can take before it threatens to snap. Then she selects the fibrous vine, the plant material she stripped from the tree trunk during the dark hours. Her fingers work with a precision that would astound a modern observer. Without instruction, without cultural transmission beyond the most basic observation of others in her band, she is reinventing skills that humans will use for the next 3 million years. She wraps the vine around one end of the curved twig, pulling it tight, using her teeth to help grip the material. The vine is strong but flexible when fresh, and as it dries it will contract, holding even more firmly. What she is making is simple but revolutionary. She is creating a spring, a device that stores mechanical energy. The bent twig wants to straighten, and the vine prevents it from doing so, creating tension. When released, that tension will transform into motion, into force, into velocity. She works methodically, binding the second end of the vine to create a rough bow shape. It is crude, uneven, without the symmetry that later humans will achieve. But it functions. She tests it carefully, pulling the center of the vine back and releasing it. The twig snaps forward with surprising force, and the vine vibrates with a low, thrumming sound. The crocodile's eyes track the movement, but show no concern. Why should they? What could a bent stick possibly do against its armor and jaws? But she is not finished. From her collection of materials, she selects the straightest twig she could find, as long as her forearm and as thick as her thumb. Using her stone cutting tool, she begins to sharpen one end, scraping away the soft bark and green wood beneath to reveal the harder heartwood. The work is slow and requires careful attention. One wrong strike and the twig will split, becoming useless. The sun continues its climb. By noon, the temperature has reached 40 degrees. Heat radiates from every surface, turning the air itself into a shimmering, oppressive presence. She can see the distortion in the distance, mirages that make the savanna appear to be covered in water that does not exist. The irony is cruel. Water everywhere in her vision, but none available to drink. Her hands cramp as she works, the muscles fatigued from hours of gripping the branch, combined with the dehydration that depletes electrolytes from her system. But she continues, driven by necessity and by something else. Something that might be called determination, or will, or simply the stubborn refusal to surrender that characterizes her species. After what seems like hours, but is probably closer to 40 minutes, she has shaped the twig into a serviceable point. It is not sharp in the way a modern spear would be sharp, not honed to a needle-like precision, but it is sharp enough to penetrate skin, to cause damage, to be a weapon rather than just a stick. She fits the blunt end of the sharpened stick against the vine of her improvised bow and pulls back experimentally. The mechanics work. The bow bends further, storing more energy. The stick is held in place by the tension. When she releases the vine, the stick flies forward, clattering against the branch in front of her before falling toward the ground. The crocodile reacts instantly to the falling object, its head snapping toward the movement with a speed that seems impossible for a creature its size. The stick lands 2 meters from the reptile's head, and for a moment, predator and prey regard the fallen object with different levels of understanding. To the crocodile, it is debris, meaningless detritus falling from the tree where prey shelters. To her, it is a test, a proof of concept, a demonstration that her idea can work in practice and not just in theory. But it is also a revelation of the weapon's limitations. The stick fell short, its flight was erratic, and even if it had struck the crocodile, she doubts it would have caused any real damage from this distance and angle. She needs to be closer. She needs a better angle. She needs, somehow, to create a situation where the crocodile is vulnerable, where its armor and speed are negated, where intelligence can exploit the gap between reptilian instinct and mammalian innovation. As she considers this problem, turning it over in her mind with the same methodical attention she gave to sharpening the stick. One of the juveniles cries out. It is a sound of pure distress, beyond hunger or fear, into the realm of genuine suffering. She looks over at their tree and sees the younger one, the male, hanging limply from his branch. He has not fallen, his hands still grip the wood, but his posture speaks of exhaustion and defeat. The older female juvenile is trying to comfort him, pressing close, making soft sounds that have no words but carry meaning nonetheless. But comfort is not what he needs. He needs water. They all need water, and they need it soon, measured in hours rather than days. She makes a decision. Waiting is death. Slow but certain. The crocodile will not leave, and they cannot outlast it. Therefore, she must act. She must create an opportunity where none currently exists. She must somehow change the terms of this engagement. She looks at the cutting tool still tucked in her hide wrap, then at the tree branch she has been clinging to for the past 14 hours. The branch is perhaps as thick as her upper arm, dry and brittle from seasons of sun exposure. Using the sharp edge of her stone tool, she begins to saw at the branch about a body's length away from the trunk. The work is difficult, requiring her to position herself awkwardly, to use muscles already exhausted from maintaining her perch. But she persists, and slowly, fiber by fiber, the branch begins to part. The other adults watch with confusion. Why is she cutting the branch? Is she trying to make another weapon? But weapons are useless against a crocodile from this distance, and the branch is too thick to be thrown effectively. She works for nearly an hour, pausing frequently to rest her cramping hands and aching shoulders. The crocodile watches with the same patient indifference it has shown since arriving. Noon passes into early afternoon. The heat peaks and begins its slow decline toward evening, though it remains brutally hot. Finally, the branch cracks and falls, crashing down through the lower branches before hitting the ground with a solid thump. It lands perhaps 4 meters from the crocodile, raising a small cloud of dust on impact. The reptile tenses, tracking the falling object, but does not move from its position. Why should it? The branch is wood, not prey. It poses no threat. But she is not trying to threaten the crocodile. She is trying to create an opportunity. And as she begins to cut another branch, and then another, a pattern emerges. She is not making weapons. She is making tools of a different kind. She is making platforms, stepping stones, a path. By late afternoon, she has dropped 6 large branches to the ground, each one carefully positioned to create a rough line leading away from the tree toward the river. The distances between them are irregular, dictated by the positions of suitable branches and her ability to cut them, but they form a pattern, a route, a possibility. The plan, such as it is becoming clear. She cannot outrun the crocodile on open ground, but she might, just might, be able to leap from branch to branch, using them as platforms that keep her above the ground, above the reach of those terrible jaws, while moving toward the river and the shallow ford beyond. It is not a good plan. The branches are not stable. They will roll underfoot. The gaps between them are too wide for certainty. But it is a plan, and any plan is better than waiting to die of thirst. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, as the heat finally starts to break and the first cool breath of evening stirs the air, she makes her final preparations. She fashions 2 more projectiles using her bow device, sharpening the points as well as her exhausted body allows. She positions these within easy reach. Then she looks at the other members of her band, scattered across 3 adjacent trees. She makes a series of sounds, low calls that carry specific meanings developed through months of living together, hunting together, surviving together. Not language in the modern sense, not grammar or syntax or vocabulary, but communication nonetheless. Warning, instruction, coordination. The message is simple. When I move, you move. Follow my path. Use the branches I have placed. Do not stop. Do not hesitate. Speed is survival. The adults understand immediately, their postures changing from passive waiting to active readiness. The juveniles are slower to comprehend, their minds clouded by dehydration and exhaustion. But the older female finally grasps the intent and begins to position herself for rapid descent from her tree. She takes a deep breath, feeling the hot, dry air rasp against her damaged throat. This is it. This is the moment where intelligence either proves its worth or reveals its limitations, where the first human gambit either succeeds or fails, where evolution's experiment with enlarged brains and tool use and forward planning is tested against millions of years of reptilian perfection. The crocodile lies beneath the tree, utterly still, utterly confident. It has won this confrontation as it has won countless others. The prey is trapped. Time favors the predator. This is the natural order, unchanged for eons. But nature has introduced a new variable into the equation, and variables, by their very definition, make outcomes uncertain. She grips the branch with both hands, positions her feet, and prepares to descend. Not to escape, not yet. First, she must do something the crocodile will not expect, cannot predict, has never encountered in its genetic memory. She must attack. The descent into chaos. The decision to descend is not made lightly. Every instinct, every lesson learned through millions of years of primate evolution screams against it. The tree is safety. The ground is death. This knowledge is written into the deepest structures of her brain, encoded in neural pathways that predate her species by countless generations. But intelligence, that strange new adaptation her kind possesses, has the power to override instinct, to calculate risk versus reward, to understand that certain death from dehydration is worse than possible death from predation, to conceive of actions that instinct alone would never permit. She shifts her weight, moving slowly down the trunk, testing each handhold and foothold before committing. The bark is rough against her palms, providing good grip despite the sweat that makes her hands slippery. Yes, sweat. Even in her dehydrated state, even with her body desperately conserving moisture, the stress and exertion force perspiration from her pores. This is the curse of her kind's superior cooling system. It allows them to remain active during the hottest parts of the day when other animals must rest, but it also drains their precious water reserves at an alarming rate. The crocodile's posture changes the moment she begins her descent. The reptile rises slightly on its legs, the casual indifference replaced by focused attention. Its eyes track her movement with laser precision. The jaw opens slightly, revealing the pink interior of the mouth, the rows of conical teeth designed to grip and crush. This is the stance of a predator preparing to strike. She reaches the lowest branch that can support her weight, perhaps 2.5 meters above the ground. This is the critical moment. From here, she can either retreat back up into the tree or commit to her desperate plan. The first of the fallen branches lies on the ground directly below her, about 3 meters from the tree trunk. Beyond it, the other branches form their irregular path toward the river. She wraps her fingers around the crude bow she constructed, feeling its tension, its potential energy stored and waiting. The sharpened projectile is fitted against the vine, ready to fly. Her heart pounds so violently she can feel it in her ears, a rhythmic thunder that threatens to overwhelm all other sounds. The crocodile is 4 meters away, positioned between her and the first branch. It has anticipated her move, cutting off the obvious escape route. This is not random positioning. This is strategy, the cold calculation of a predator that has successfully hunted for years, perhaps decades. But she has strategy too. It is newer, more uncertain, built on individual experience rather than genetic programming. But it exists, and it tells her that the crocodile expects her to drop directly down, to run in a straight line, to follow the pattern that fleeing prey always follows. So she will do something else. Instead of dropping straight down, she swings herself outward on the branch, using her momentum to launch herself laterally, away from both the tree and the crocodile. She flies through the air for a brief, terrifying moment, completely vulnerable, suspended between the safety she has left and the uncertain ground rushing up to meet her. She lands hard on the packed earth 2 meters from the first branch, her legs absorbing the impact in a crouch. Pain shoots through her ankles and knees, but nothing breaks, nothing tears. She rolls forward immediately, not pausing to assess, driven by pure adrenaline and the certain knowledge that the crocodile is already moving. It is. The animal explodes toward her with that shocking speed that seems impossible for its bulk. 500 kilograms of muscle and armor accelerates from stillness to a sprint in less than 2 seconds. The ground shakes with each stride. Dust erupts from beneath its claws. The tail swings in powerful arcs, providing additional propulsion. She scrambles for the first branch, her hands finding purchase on the rough bark. She hauls herself up onto it just as the crocodile's jaws snap shut on the space her legs occupied a fraction of a second earlier. The sound is like a tree branch breaking, a sharp crack that echoes across the open ground. But now she has elevation, half a meter above the ground, standing on the fallen branch that wobbles precariously beneath her weight. The crocodile circles, its eyes never leaving her. It knows she must jump to the next branch. It positions itself to intercept. This is the moment she has been planning for, the scenario she worked through during the endless night hours. The crocodile is focused entirely on her position, on predicting her next move. Its attention is locked on the immediate threat, on the prey within striking distance. It is not watching the trees. She makes a sharp, piercing cry, a sound that carries meaning to the members of her band. Now. Move now. The other adults drop from their trees simultaneously, hitting the ground and sprinting in different directions. The juveniles follow a heartbeat later, their smaller bodies giving them advantage in the initial acceleration. The sudden explosion of movement creates chaos. Multiple targets where there was previously only one. The crocodile's head swivels, confused by the sudden multiplicity of prey. Its brain, optimized for tracking a single target through patient stalking, struggles to process the new information. For 2 crucial seconds, it hesitates, trying to decide which target to pursue. Those 2 seconds save them all. She leaps to the second branch as the nearest adult male, a robust individual in his prime, sprints past the crocodile on its blind side. The reptile spins toward him, committing to the new target, jaws gaping wide. But the male has already angled away, using one of the fallen branches as a stepping platform to vault over a low shrub. She lands on the second branch, nearly losing her balance as it rolls beneath her feet. She drops to one knee, wraps one arm around the branch for stability, and raises the bow device with the other hand. The crocodile is 6 meters away now, pursuing the male. Its flank is exposed, the softer scales behind the front leg clearly visible in the late afternoon light. She pulls back on the vine, feeling the tension build in the bent wood. The sharpened projectile trembles slightly. She has never done this before, never aimed at a living target, never tried to compensate for distance and movement, but some intuition, some combination of hand-eye coordination inherited from millions of years of arboreal ancestors catching insects and fruits, guides her. She releases. The projectile flies in a shallow arc. It is not fast by modern standards, nowhere near the velocity of even a simple bow from later human cultures. But it is faster than a thrown stick, more accurate than a desperate toss, and it strikes. The sharpened point hits the crocodile just behind the front leg, in the soft tissue where the scales are smallest. It does not penetrate deeply, perhaps only a few centimeters. The crocodile's hide is thick even in the vulnerable areas, but it penetrates enough. The animal bellows, a sound unlike anything she has heard before. It is rage and pain and confusion, all compressed into a single explosive exhalation. The crocodile spins, abandoning its pursuit of the male to locate this new source of injury. Its eyes find her instantly, standing on the branch, already fitting a second projectile to her bow. For a moment, predator and prey lock eyes across the 6 meters of space. And in that moment, something passes between them. Recognition, perhaps. The crocodile, with its ancient brain evolved over hundreds of millions of years, has encountered something it does not understand. Prey that fights back. Prey that uses tools. Prey that plans and coordinates and strikes from a distance. The reptile charges. It comes directly at her, abandoning all subtlety, all patience, driven now by pain and fury rather than hunger. This is no longer a hunt. This is conflict, war, the clash of 2 survival strategies that have never before met in direct confrontation. She releases the second projectile too early, her hands shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. It flies wide, missing entirely, disappearing into the grass beyond. She has no time to prepare a third shot. The crocodile is 4 meters away. 3, 2. She leaps, not forward to the next branch, but upward and backward, using every ounce of strength in her legs to propel herself away from the charging predator. She feels the displacement of air as the jaws snap shut beneath her, so close that she can smell the reptile's breath, a mixture of rotting meat and river mud and something else, something primordial and terrible. She lands badly, her left ankle twisting as she hits the ground. Pain explodes up her leg, bright and sharp and completely overwhelming. For a moment, she cannot move, cannot think beyond the agony. The crocodile is turning, its massive body taking precious seconds to redirect its momentum. Those seconds are all that stand between her and death. Hands grab her arms. The other adult female has circled back, risking her own life to help. Together, they stumble toward the next branch, the injured ankle barely supporting weight. Behind them, the crocodile completes its turn and resumes its charge. They reach the branch and scramble up onto it just as the reptile arrives. But this branch is older, drier than the others. The combined weight of two adults is too much. It cracks with a sound like breaking bones. They fall. The ground rises up to meet them, hard and unforgiving. She lands on her side, the impact driving the air from her lungs. The other female lands nearby, equally stunned. The crocodile is right there, close enough to touch, its jaws opening wide. And then something strikes the reptile's head. A rock, perhaps the size of a fist, thrown with surprising accuracy. It bounces off the armored skull with no hope of causing real damage, but it distracts, creates a moment of confusion. The crocodile's head swivels toward this new threat. One of the adult males stands 15 meters away, already bending to pick up another rock. The other male appears on the opposite side, also armed. They throw simultaneously, a coordinated attack that speaks of communication, of planning, of cooperation. The crocodile roars again, spinning between the two threats. Its body language radiates confusion and frustration. This is not how prey behaves. This is not the pattern. Where is the fleeing antelope, the panic-stricken zebra, the predictable victim that evolution has taught it to expect? The distraction lasts only seconds, but seconds are enough. She forces herself to her feet despite the screaming pain in her ankle, despite the bruises and cuts covering her body. The other female does the same. Together they limp toward the next branch, toward the river, toward survival or death. The juveniles are already ahead, their smaller size and lighter weight allowing them to navigate the branches more easily. They are racing toward the ford, toward the shallow water that might, if fortune favors them, provide passage to the other side. The crocodile makes a decision. It abandons her and her companion, turning instead toward the easier prey, the juveniles. The small, weak, exhausted juveniles who have no weapons, no strategy, nothing but speed and terror. She sees this, understands it, and something inside her, something that might be called courage or desperation or love, though her kind has no words for any of these concepts, drives her to act. She screams, not a cry of pain or fear, but something else, a challenge, a declaration. Come for me, face me, fight the one who hurt you, not the defenseless young. The sound carries meaning that transcends language. The crocodile understands on some level, responding to the aggression in her voice, to the implied threat. It turns back toward her, abandoning the easier prey for the one that has caused it pain, that has disrupted the ancient order of predator and prey. This is what she wanted, what she needed. The juveniles are almost to the ford now, scrambling across the branches with desperate energy. The other adults have positioned themselves strategically, ready to continue their stone throwing if the crocodile pursues the young. But the crocodile's attention is fixed on her. She has become more than prey. She has become enemy. Personal. The wound in its flank, though superficial, burns with pain and insult. No prey has ever done this. No victim has ever fought back with such coordination and intelligence. She backs toward the river, moving as quickly as her injured ankle allows. Each step sends fresh waves of agony up her leg, but she does not stop, cannot stop. The crocodile follows, pacing her, staying between her and the shallow ford. It has learned. It understands now that she is trying to reach the crossing, and it will not allow it. The sun touches the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The first day is ending. 24 hours since the siege began. 24 hours more before dehydration becomes critical. The mathematics of survival continue their inexorable countdown. She reaches the water's edge, the deep water where the crocodile has every advantage. Behind her, she can hear splashing. The juveniles have reached the ford and are crossing, the water barely reaching their knees. The other adults are following, moving quickly but carefully, watching for additional crocodiles that might be waiting in ambush. She is alone now, injured, exhausted, dehydrated to the point where her vision swims and her hands shake with more than just adrenaline. The crocodile approaches slowly, confidently. It knows it has won. Prey in the water belongs to the crocodile. This is law. This is nature. This is how it has always been. But she is Homo, and Homo does not accept nature's laws without challenge. She wades into the water, feeling the current pull at her legs. The riverbed drops away sharply, just a meter from shore, the bottom disappearing into darkness. This is the crocodile's realm, its hunting ground, the environment where millions of years of evolution have made it the perfect predator. She reaches into her hide wrap and pulls out the last tool she prepared during the long night. Not a projectile, not a cutting implement, something else. A length of vine wrapped multiple times around itself, creating a cord. And at the end of that cord, secured with strips of bark, her precious cutting tool, the sharp stone that has served her so well. The crocodile enters the water behind her, sliding in with barely a ripple. Underwater, it moves with grace and power that its terrestrial awkwardness could never suggest. It is closing the distance. 3 meters. 2. She takes a deep breath, the deepest her damaged throat will allow, and dives. The water is murky, turbid with suspended sediment that limits visibility to less than a meter. But she does not need to see far. She needs only to see the massive shape that surges toward her through the gloom, jaws opening wide enough to engulf her entire upper body. At the last possible moment, she twists aside, using her remaining strength to propel herself away from those terrible teeth. The jaws snap shut on water and darkness. The crocodile's momentum carries it past her, and for one precious second, its flank is exposed. She swings the corded stone with all her remaining strength. The weight and the momentum combine to drive the sharp edge deep into the soft tissue behind the front leg, exactly where her projectile struck earlier. But this time, the penetration is deeper, much deeper. The cutting edge slices through scales and skin and muscle, finding the network of blood vessels that supply the massive limb. The water erupts in chaos. The crocodile spins, its tail striking her with glancing force that sends her tumbling through the murky depths. She has no air left. Her lungs scream for oxygen. The injured ankle makes swimming nearly impossible. The world is dissolving into darkness and pain, and the terrible knowledge that she has gambled everything on this one strike. She breaks the surface, gasping, choking, struggling to keep her head above water. The current is pulling her away from shore, out toward the deeper channel. Behind her, the water churns as the crocodile thrashes, confused and wounded, its blood darkening the river. Hands reach for her. The adult males have waded back into the water at the ford, forming a chain, reaching out to pull her to safety. She grasps the nearest hand with a grip born of pure desperation. They haul her through the shallows, across the ford, up onto the far bank. She collapses in the mud, her body finally reaching the limits of what it can endure. Every muscle trembles. Her vision narrows to a tunnel. The pain in her ankle has become a distant thing, overwhelmed by simple exhaustion. But she has crossed. They have all crossed. The river lies between them and the wounded crocodile. And ahead, just visible in the fading light, is a stand of trees near a small spring where water seeps from the ground, clear and clean and safe. The first battle is over. 48 hours have not yet passed, but the siege has been broken. Intelligence has challenged instinct and, against all reasonable odds, has survived the encounter. As darkness falls and the band limps toward the distant water source, she allows herself one backward glance at the river. The crocodile is nowhere to be seen, likely retreated to the depths to heal or die. She will never know which. But she knows this: something has changed. A line has been crossed. A boundary has been breached. For 3 billion years, predator and prey engaged in an arms race of tooth and claw, speed and stealth, armor and venom. Today, a new weapon entered that ancient conflict. Thought, planning, tools, coordination. Today, Homo habilis fought back and won. The spring of recovery. Water. The word does not exist in her vocabulary, but the concept dominates every fiber of her being. Water is life. Water is salvation. Water is the difference between the desperate creature that collapsed on the riverbank minutes ago and the living, thinking being she might become again if she can only reach the source that lies ahead. The spring is perhaps 200 meters from where they crossed the ford. In her current state, injured and exhausted, it might as well be 200 kilometers. Each step on the damaged ankle sends lightning bolts of agony through her nervous system. The joint has swollen to nearly twice its normal size, the skin stretched tight and hot to the touch. Not broken, she can still bear some weight, but badly sprained. In the world of 2.9 million years ago, such an injury is often a death sentence. A predator that cannot run is a predator that starves. Prey that cannot flee becomes someone else's meal. But she is neither pure predator nor pure prey. She is something new, something that does not fit neatly into nature's established categories. And her band does not abandon her. The 2 adult males position themselves on either side, allowing her to drape her arms across their shoulders. They take her weight, moving slowly but steadily toward the spring. The adult female leads, carrying the younger juvenile who has reached the point of near collapse from dehydration. The older juvenile walks on her own, but barely, her steps mechanical and unsteady. The landscape here is different from the riverbank they left behind. The ground slopes gently upward, away from the floodplain, into an area of scattered boulders and hardy scrub vegetation. Acacia trees dot the hillside, their thorny branches providing minimal shade, but also serving as landmarks. The spring itself is marked by a cluster of lusher growth, green leaves that stand out against the brown and yellow tones that dominate the dry season palette. The sun has fully set now, but the moon provides adequate light to navigate by. It hangs full and bright in the eastern sky, turning the landscape into a study of silver and shadow. In the distance, the sounds of the nocturnal savanna begin their nightly chorus. Lions roar, marking territory. Hyenas whoop and cackle as they gather for the hunt. Somewhere closer, an elephant trumpets, the sound carrying for kilometers across the still air. They reach the spring as the last blue light fades from the western horizon. It is not dramatic, no rushing waterfall or crystal-clear pool, just a place where the water table rises close enough to the surface that moisture seeps through the soil, creating a patch of mud perhaps 3 meters across. Small pools have formed in depressions, each no larger than a cupped hand. But the water is clear, filtered through layers of sand and rock, free of the parasites and bacteria that make the river water dangerous to drink without caution. The juveniles reach the water first, falling to their knees and burying their faces in the largest pool. They drink with desperate gulping sounds, their small bodies shaking with the intensity of their need. The adult female joins them, more controlled, but no less urgent. She scoops water with both hands, bringing it to her mouth in rapid succession. The males help her down to the water's edge, then join in the drinking themselves. She lowers her face to a pool and drinks. The water is cool, slightly mineral in taste, the most delicious thing she has ever experienced. She drinks until her stomach aches, until the desperate signals from her dehydrated cells begin to quiet, until her tongue no longer feels like dried leather in her mouth. Only then, with immediate survival needs met, does she allow herself to assess their situation fully. They are across the river, away from the immediate threat of the crocodile. This is good. The spring provides water, at least for now. Also good, but they are in unfamiliar territory, far from their usual ranging area. They have no food sources mapped, no knowledge of which fruiting trees are near, no cached stones for tool making. The injured ankle means she cannot hunt effectively, cannot gather efficiently, cannot flee from predators. And there are always predators. As if summoning them with her thoughts, a sound cuts through the night. Coughing grunt, low and resonant. Lion. Male, judging by the depth and power of the vocalization. Perhaps 300 meters away, maybe less. The sound is not directed at them specifically, just a lion doing what lions do, announcing his presence to rivals and pride mates alike. The band tenses immediately. Lions are the apex predators of this landscape, cooperative hunters that can bring down prey many times their size. A healthy group of Homo habilis can sometimes drive a lone lioness away from a kill, using coordinated stone throwing and aggressive displays. But a male lion is a different proposition entirely. 200 kilograms of muscle and fang and aggression. Not something to confront, even in the best of circumstances. And these are far from the best of circumstances. She looks around, evaluating their options with the same analytical approach that saved them at the river. The spring is in a slight depression, offering no defensive advantages. The nearest climbable trees are 20 meters away, too far to reach if a lion decides to investigate the scent of vulnerable prey. The boulders scattered across the hillside offer possibilities, but in the darkness, she cannot assess which might provide refuge and which are too low or too exposed. The male lion calls again, closer now, perhaps 200 meters. Other sounds join the first, grunts, low moans. The contact calls of a pride communicating in the darkness. Not just one lion then, multiple individuals. A hunting party. The adult males begin gathering stones, arming themselves with the eternal tools of their kind. But their movements are sluggish, hands shaking from exhaustion. They have been through hell in the past 30 hours. A confrontation with lions, now, in this state, would be suicide. She forces herself to stand, ignoring the screaming protest from her ankle. Leaning heavily on a stout stick she grabbed while moving from the river, she scans the moonlit landscape with urgent intensity. There, 30 meters upslope, a cluster of 3 large boulders, each the size of a small hut, positioned close together. The gaps between them are narrow, too narrow for a lion to easily access, and one of the boulders has a flat top, perhaps 2 meters above the ground. Defensible, survivable. She makes the sharp call that means danger, immediate action required. Points with her free hand toward the boulders. The band responds instantly, the juveniles moving first, followed by the adult female. The males hesitate, wanting to stay close to her, to help, but she waves them on urgently. They are more mobile than she is. They need to get to safety while she makes her slower, more painful journey. The males move, still carrying stones, ready to turn and throw if necessary. She follows, using the stick as a crutch, hopping on her good leg, dragging the injured one. Each impact sends fresh waves of pain radiating from the ankle, but she does not slow, cannot slow. The lion calls again, close enough now that she can hear it without straining. Perhaps 100 meters, maybe less. The sound seems to come from downslope, from the direction of the river. The pride is likely investigating the ford, following the scent trail that her band left. Blood, sweat, fear. To a lion's sensitive nose, these smells paint a vivid picture of weakened prey. 50 meters to the boulders. Her good leg is trembling with fatigue, threatening to give out. The stick slips on loose gravel, nearly sending her sprawling. She catches herself, gasps at the pain, continues. Movement in her peripheral vision, large, fast, tawny shape in the moonlight. Lion. Not charging, not yet. Just watching, assessing. A lioness, judging by the lack of mane, her lean body designed for speed and agility. She stands perhaps 70 meters away, perfectly still except for the slow swish of her tail. Behind her, other shapes materialize from the shadows. 2, 3, 4 lionesses total, and further back, the massive silhouette of the male. A full pride. 5 adults, all focused on the small band of hominins struggling toward the boulders. The adult males see the lions at the same moment. They shout, aggressive vocalizations meant to convey strength and danger. They raise their arms, making themselves appear larger. They hurl stones, not at the lions directly, but in front of them, creating dust clouds and noise. Classic intimidation tactics. The lions stop advancing but do not retreat. They have seen this before. Prey that tries to appear dangerous. Sometimes it works. Often it does not. They wait, patient and professional, watching for weakness, for the moment when bluff becomes vulnerability. 30 meters to the boulders. 20. The juveniles reach safety first, scrambling up the sloping side of the largest boulder to reach the flat top. The adult female follows, moving with surprising agility despite her exhaustion. The males back toward the boulders slowly, never turning away from the lions, maintaining their aggressive display. 15 meters. 10. She can see the details of the boulders now, can spot the narrow gaps between them, can identify which routes offer access and which are blocked. Her mind works frantically, planning even in extremis. If the lions attack, where is the best defensive position? Which gaps should they block? How can they use stones most effectively in confined spaces? 5 meters. The nearest lioness tenses, muscles coiling like springs. This is the moment. The prey is almost to safety. If the pride is going to strike, it must be now, before the opportunity vanishes. The lioness charges. She covers 20 meters in 3 seconds, a blur of tawny fur and lethal purpose. The adult males throw simultaneously, their stones flying with desperate accuracy. One strikes the charging lioness in the shoulder, the other misses high. The lioness barely notices, does not slow. She will not reach the boulders in time. This is simple mathematics. Speed versus distance versus a damaged ankle that will not support running. The lioness will be on her in seconds, and nothing can prevent it. But the males do not flee to safety. Instead, they position themselves between her and the charging predator, stones raised, voices roaring defiance. They are going to fight, are going to trade their lives for hers if necessary. This is not instinct. Pack animals defend the pack, but they do not intentionally sacrifice themselves for individuals who are not offspring or mates. This is something else. This is choice, loyalty, perhaps even the earliest glimmering of what will someday be called honor. The lioness is 10 meters away. 8. 6. The males throw again, a barrage of stones that forces the lioness to dodge slightly, disrupting her charge. It gains perhaps 1 second, maybe 2. And then something remarkable happens. From the top of the boulder, a stone flies. Not thrown by an adult with strength and experience. Thrown by the older juvenile, the 5-year-old female who has watched the adults defend the band all her short life. The throw is awkward, the stone small, but it strikes the lioness directly between the eyes. The impact is not enough to injure seriously, but it shocks, confuses, breaks the predator's focus for a critical moment. The lioness stumbles, not from pain, but from pure surprise. Prey does not attack from above. Prey does not coordinate its defense across multiple angles. This is wrong, against the pattern, dangerous in ways the lioness's instincts cannot quite process. The moment of hesitation is enough. The males reach her, one on each side, and half carry, half drag her the final 5 meters to the boulders. They shove her into a narrow gap between 2 of the massive stones, then position themselves at the entrance, stones ready, bodies forming a living barrier. The lioness recovers and completes her charge, but the momentum is broken, the element of surprise lost. She skids to a stop at the edge of the boulder cluster, pacing back and forth, searching for an opening. The other lionesses arrive, circling, testing different approaches, but the boulders form a natural fortress. The gaps are narrow enough that a lion can only approach from one direction at a time, negating their advantage in numbers. The tops of the boulders are too high to leap directly, and the slopes too steep to climb quickly. The male lion arrives last, moving with the casual confidence of absolute dominance. He is enormous, easily 220 kilograms, his dark mane making him appear even larger in the moonlight. He surveys the situation with eyes that reflect the moon like green flames. Then he does something unexpected. He sits down, not retreating, not attacking, just sitting, waiting. The lionesses, taking their cue from the pride male, also settle into waiting postures around the boulder cluster. They are perhaps 10 meters away, close enough to strike if any of the hominins try to leave, but far enough to be beyond easy stone-throwing range. And just like that, the siege begins again. Different predator, different location, same desperate mathematics. The lions can wait indefinitely. They have water access at the river. They can hunt other prey while maintaining their watch on the boulders. They can take turns resting, ensuring fresh sentries at all times. The hominins have water from the spring, which they can access by lowering a juvenile down on a vine to fill containers made from folded leaves. But they have no food. The limited vegetation growing between the boulders will last perhaps 1 day. After that, hunger will begin its slow erosion of strength and judgment. She leans back against the cool stone, feeling the rough texture against her spine. Her ankle throbs with every heartbeat. Her body aches from a dozen injuries. The cutting tool that served her so well is lost, dropped somewhere during the chaos at the river. She has nothing left. No weapons, no tools, no plans. But she has her band. 5 other individuals, exhausted and frightened, but alive. Together, united by experience and necessity into something that transcends mere survival. They have faced the crocodile and lived. They have escaped the lions, for now. They have crossed the river, reached water, found temporary refuge. And somewhere in her remarkable brain, despite the exhaustion and pain and fear, despite every rational reason to surrender to despair, an idea begins to form. Small, tentative, but growing. The crocodile taught her something, not through words or conscious instruction, but through the brutal calculus of survival. Intelligence can defeat superior strength. Tools extend capability. Coordination multiplies individual power. Planning transforms desperation into possibility. The lions are stronger, faster, better armed by nature. But they are also predictable. They follow patterns written into their genes over millions of years. They wait for prey to weaken, to make mistakes, to provide opportunities. What if the prey refuses to weaken? What if the prey makes no mistakes? What if, instead of waiting for opportunity, the prey creates it? She looks up at the moon, calculating time by its position. Perhaps 4 hours until dawn. 4 hours to rest, to think, to plan. The lions are patient, but patience cuts both ways. Every hour they spend watching the boulders is an hour they could spend hunting other prey. Every night they maintain this siege is energy expended for uncertain reward. Homo habilis are not large, not filling meals for a pride of 5 adult lions. The effort required to extract them from the boulders may exceed the caloric value of the catch. The lions know this on some level. Their patience has limits, calculated by the same evolutionary mathematics that governs all predator behavior. She just needs to make the mathematics tip in her favor, needs to increase the cost, reduce the reward, make the pride decide that easier prey awaits elsewhere on the vast savanna. As the night deepens and the stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns, as the lions settle into their patient watch and her band huddles in exhausted silence among the protecting stones, she begins to formulate a new plan, more complex than the river crossing, more dependent on coordination and timing and understanding of predator psychology. But possible. Just barely possible. The battle at the river bought them life measured in hours. Now she must buy them life measured in days, weeks, long enough to heal, to recover, to find their way back to familiar territory. The 48-hour countdown continues, but its meaning has changed. It is no longer just about water. It is about transformation, about a species taking its first stumbling steps toward a future that will remake the world. The lions watch the boulders. She watches the lions. And in the space between predator and prey, something new is being born. Not in a single moment, but gradually, painfully, through trial and error and desperate innovation. The age of humans has begun. The predators just do not know it yet. The triumph of thought. Dawn breaks over the East African highlands with the sudden intensity characteristic of equatorial latitudes. One moment the world is silver and shadow. The next, it explodes into gold and amber as the sun clears the distant volcanic peaks. The light transforms everything, revealing details hidden by darkness, painting the landscape in colors that seem almost aggressive in their vividness. The lions are still there, all 5 of them, positioned in a loose semicircle around the boulder cluster. They have not moved significantly during the night, though their positions have shifted slightly as they took turns resting. The male lies sphinx-like on a flat rock 20 meters away, his mane glowing like fire in the early light. The lionesses are closer, more alert, eyes tracking every movement among the boulders. She has not slept, cannot sleep. The pain in her ankle has settled into a constant grinding ache that makes rest impossible. But more than pain, her mind will not quiet. It races through scenarios, calculations, possibilities. The plan that formed during the night hours has gained detail and structure, though it remains fragile, dependent on factors she cannot fully control. The other members of her band stir as the light strengthens. The juveniles wake first, as young always do, their resilience remarkable even after the ordeals of the past 2 days. They are hungry, desperately so, but the immediate crisis of thirst has been resolved. During the night, the adult female fashioned crude containers from large leaves, sealed with mud. The juveniles made multiple trips down to the spring pools, lowering themselves on vines while the adults kept watch. The system worked. They have water. But water alone is not enough. The human body, even in its earliest form, requires calories, protein, fats, vitamins. Without food, they can survive perhaps 3 weeks under ideal conditions. But these are not ideal conditions. They are stressed, injured, depleted. The juveniles especially are operating on minimal reserves. By tomorrow, hunger will begin to seriously impair judgment and motor control. By the day after, weakness will make escape impossible, even if an opportunity presents itself. She needs to act today, now, while they still have the strength to execute what her mind has conceived. She makes the call for attention, a specific sound that means gathering, planning, coordination required. The adults respond immediately, moving close. The juveniles watch with wide eyes, understanding that something important is happening, even if they cannot grasp the details. What follows is not language in the modern sense. No grammar, no syntax, no abstract concepts expressed through symbolic representation. But it is communication nonetheless, more sophisticated than anything their Australopithecine cousins could achieve. She uses sounds, yes, but also gestures, demonstrations, pointing, drawing in the dust with a stick, building a shared understanding through multiple channels of information transfer. The plan is this: they will not wait for the lions to leave. They will make the lions leave. She begins by pointing to the male lion, then miming sleep. The gesture is crude but clear. Lions, like most large predators, spend the majority of their time resting. 16 to 20 hours per day in a state of drowsy torpor, conserving energy between hunts. The pride has been awake and alert all night. By midday, they will be fighting the biological imperative to sleep, to lower their guard, to slip into the restorative unconsciousness that all mammals require. Next, she points to the sun, traces its arc across the sky to the position it will occupy at midday. High, hot, brutal. The temperature will reach 45 degrees Celsius, possibly higher. Even lions, well adapted to the African heat, suffer at such temperatures. They will seek shade, will become sluggish, will want nothing more than to sleep through the worst of the heat. Then she demonstrates the next phase. Using stones and sticks as props, she shows how they will create noise. Constant, irregular, disturbing noise. Not threatening enough to provoke an attack, but annoying enough to prevent rest. Stones banged together. Shouts and calls. Movement and activity that keeps the lions alert, prevents them from slipping into the sleep they crave. The adult males catch on quickly, their eyes lighting with understanding. The adult female takes longer, but finally nods, making a sound of agreement. The juveniles watch, confused but trusting. But noise alone will not be enough. She shows them the second component, pointing to herself, then to one of the narrow gaps between boulders, then beyond to the open ground. She will leave the fortress, will present herself as bait, as an opportunity too tempting to ignore. The males react with immediate distress, making negative sounds, gestures of refusal. Too dangerous, too risky. She is injured, cannot run, will be killed instantly if the lions attack. But she persists, demonstrating the rest of the plan with patient repetition until understanding dawns. She will not simply present herself and hope for mercy. She will control the encounter, will use the terrain, the boulders, the narrow gaps that allow only one lion to approach at a time, will arm herself with stones and with something else, something new that she spent the dark hours creating. She reaches into the gap beside her and pulls out her night's work. It is crude, assembled from limited materials in poor light, but it represents something revolutionary. She has taken a long, straight branch, as thick as 2 fingers, and lashed sharp stones to one end using vine and strips of bark. The stones are not symmetrical, not worked to any recognizable pattern, but they are sharp, and they are secured well enough to serve as a weapon. A spear, the first spear, though millions of years will pass before her descendants perfect the design, before they learn to harden the tips with fire, before they develop throwing techniques that can bring down prey from 20 meters away. But the concept is there. Extension of reach, multiplication of force. A tool that transforms the human body from weak to dangerous. The males examine it with fascination, turning it over, testing the binding, making sounds of approval. They understand immediately the advantage this provides. A lion that must approach within biting distance to kill faces no threat from weak hominin teeth. But a lion that must approach within 2 meters faces a weapon that can strike from beyond the reach of its own claws. She has made 2 such weapons during the night, her hands working by moonlight and touch, while her mind ran through scenarios. She gives one to the largest male, keeps one for herself. Then she demonstrates how she wants the others to use their stones. Not thrown randomly, but in coordinated volleys, timed to create maximum disruption when the lions are most frustrated, most eager to break the stalemate. The sun climbs higher. The temperature rises steadily. By mid-morning, heat shimmers rise from the rocks and packed earth. The lions have moved to shadier positions, but they maintain their watch. The male's eyes are half closed, his posture relaxed but not quite sleeping. The lionesses are more alert, but even they show signs of drowsiness. Time to begin. She starts banging 2 stones together, a sharp, rhythmic sound that carries clearly in the still air. The nearest lioness raises her head, ears swiveling toward the noise. She continues, maintaining the rhythm. After a minute, one of the males joins in with his own stones, creating a slightly different pattern. Then the other male. The sound is not harmonious, not musical. It is deliberately irritating, irregular enough to prevent habituation. The lions react with visible annoyance. The male opens his eyes fully, staring at the boulders with an expression that, if anthropomorphized, might be called irritation. The lionesses shift position, flick their tails, vocalize low growls. But they do not attack. The noise is annoying, not threatening, and attacking would require effort, exertion in the growing heat. For 2 hours, the band maintains the noise, banging, shouting, creating a constant auditory assault on the lion's attempt to rest. The juveniles participate, their high-pitched voices adding to the cacophony. It becomes almost a game for them, each trying to create the most annoying sound possible. The lions grow increasingly frustrated. They move further away, seeking positions beyond the worst of the noise. But they do not leave. The promise of an easy meal, prey trapped and weakened, keeps them anchored to the area despite the discomfort. By noon, the sun is a hammer and the world is an anvil. The temperature has reached its peak, perhaps 48 degrees in the direct sunlight. Even in shade, even resting, the heat is oppressive, dangerous, potentially lethal. The lions are panting heavily, their bodies radiating heat they cannot efficiently dissipate. Their eyes are slitted against the glare. Their posture speaks of exhaustion and overwhelming desire to sleep. This is the moment. She stops the noise abruptly, signaling the others to do the same. The sudden silence is almost shocking after hours of continuous sound. The lions notice immediately, lifting their heads, attention focusing back on the boulders. She moves to the narrow gap that serves as the main entrance to their refuge. The males position themselves on either side, spears ready, stones piled within easy reach. The adult female and juveniles move to the tops of the boulders, their own stone supplies prepared. She steps out into the open. The effect on the lions is immediate and electric. All 5 are suddenly alert, drowsiness forgotten. The nearest lioness rises to her feet. The male's posture changes from relaxed to coiled. This is what they have been waiting for. Prey making a mistake. Opportunity presenting itself. But she does not run, does not panic. She stands just outside the gap, leaning on her makeshift spear, injured ankle held off the ground. 10 meters from the nearest lioness, within easy charging distance. The lioness takes 3 steps forward, then stops. Something is wrong. Prey does not behave this way. Injured prey flees in panic or freezes in terror. It does not stand calmly, watching, apparently unafraid. She makes a sound, loud and sharp. Not a scream of fear, but something else. Challenge, aggression. The sound a predator makes, not prey. The lioness's ears flatten against her skull. Confusion mixed with anger. Then the stones begin to fly. Not at the lioness directly approaching her, but at the other lions. Coordinated volleys from multiple directions. Stones rain down from the tops of the boulders. The males throw from the gap entrance. The barrage is continuous, overwhelming, impossible to track or avoid. A stone strikes the male lion on his flank. Another hits one of the lionesses on the shoulder. A third narrowly misses the nearest lioness's head. The lions roar in fury and confusion. They are being attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. Their instinct is to charge, to close with the threat, to use their overwhelming physical advantage. But which threat? The injured hominin standing in the open? The stone throwers in the gap? The juveniles on top of the boulders? They cannot attack all simultaneously, and every moment they hesitate, more stones fly. The nearest lioness makes her decision. She charges directly at the exposed prey, covering the 10 meters in explosive strides. This is what her million years of evolution have trained her for. The final rush, the pounce, the killing bite. But she has never faced a spear before. The hominin does not flee, does not even flinch. She sets the spear, bracing the butt against the boulder behind her, angling the sharp stones forward at chest height. The lioness sees the pointed object, but does not understand what it represents, has no framework for interpreting this threat. She impales herself. The collision is devastating. The lioness's momentum drives her body forward even as the sharpened stones penetrate her chest. Not deeply, the materials and construction are too crude for that, but deeply enough to cause pain, to draw blood, to create genuine injury. The lioness screams, a sound of rage and agony, and swipes at the spear with her massive paws. The weapon breaks. The lashing comes apart, stones scattering. But it has done its job. The lioness backs away, blood staining her chest fur, her charge broken. She is not seriously injured, will probably recover fully in a few days. But the encounter has violated every expectation coded in her predatory instincts. Prey does not fight back like this. Prey does not wound predators. This is wrong, dangerous, against the natural order. The hominin retreats quickly back into the gap between boulders. The males are there immediately, presenting their own spear, creating a barrier. More stones fly, a continuous barrage that gives the lions no opportunity to regroup, to coordinate a new attack. The male lion roars, a sound of pure frustration. He charges toward the boulders, not at any specific target, but in a display of dominance and anger. 2 meters from the gap, a volley of stones strikes him directly in the face. One hits his nose, a sensitive area rich with nerve endings. He stops, shaking his massive head, backing away. The message is clear. Any attack will be met with injury. The prey has teeth now, sharp teeth that can reach across distance. And the prey coordinates its defense in ways that negate the lion's advantages in size and strength. For perhaps 5 minutes, the standoff continues. lions pacing, hominins maintaining their defensive positions, stones flying whenever a lion approaches too close. The wounded lioness licks her chest, examining the injury, making sounds of distress. And then the male lion turns and walks away. Not running, not retreating in panic, simply deciding, based on the ancient mathematics of predation, that this prey is not worth the cost. There are easier meals on the savanna. Prey that behaves predictably. Prey that does not fight back with tools and coordination and unexpected savagery. The lionesses watch their pride male leave, then follow. The wounded one limps slightly, favoring the injured side. Within minutes, all 5 lions have moved beyond immediate striking distance, perhaps 50 meters away. They look back, perhaps considering one final attempt. But no, the decision has been made. By the time the sun begins its afternoon descent, the lions are gone entirely, disappeared into the vast landscape in search of more cooperative prey. The band does not celebrate immediately. They maintain their positions, watching, waiting for the lions to return. But as an hour passes, then 2, the tension begins to ease. The juveniles climb down from the boulders. The males lower their weapons. The adult female makes a sound, not quite a laugh, but something close. Relief, joy, disbelief that they have survived. She slides down to sit on the ground, her damaged ankle stretched out before her. The pain has not diminished, but it seems somehow less important now, less urgent. They have water. They have proven they can defend this position. And once her ankle heals enough for travel, they can make their way back to familiar territory, carrying with them knowledge that will change everything. The sun continues its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, as it had 48 hours ago when this ordeal began. But the world is different now. Not visibly, not in any way an outside observer might notice. The savanna looks the same. The predators still hunt. The prey still flee. The ancient patterns continue. But something fundamental has shifted. A line has been crossed, a threshold breached. For 3 billion years, life on Earth evolved through the mechanism of natural selection. Random mutation and environmental pressure shaped organisms into forms suited for survival. Teeth and claws, speed and stealth, armor and venom, size and strength. The tools were biological, written into genes, carved by time. But now, a new force has entered the equation. Not random, not passive, not waiting for evolution's glacial pace. Intelligence, planning, tool use, the ability to imagine possibilities and then create them, to see a stick and envision a spear, to see a vine and envision a trap, to see a crocodile or a lion and envision victory. The hominins gathered around the spring do not understand the significance of what they have done. They have no concept of evolution or history or the vast sweep of time. They know only that they survived, that their band is intact, that tomorrow they will still be alive. But in the distant future, paleontologists will dig in these very sediments. They will find fossilized bones bearing the marks of tools. They will discover stone artifacts that speak of deliberate manufacture. They will piece together a story from fragments and traces, reconstructing the moment when something new entered the world. Homo habilis, the handyman. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most specialized, but adaptable, innovative, capable of learning from experience and transmitting that knowledge to others. The crocodile will heal, or it will not. The wound she inflicted was serious, but probably not fatal. It will be more cautious in the future, more wary of small bipedal prey that fights back. Perhaps it will teach this caution to its offspring through example, creating a lineage of crocodiles that avoid humans. The lioness will heal, her wounds superficial, but she too will remember, will associate pain with the sight and smell of these strange creatures, will perhaps pass that association to her cubs through the complex social learning that big cats are capable of. And the band will continue their existence, moving through the landscape, seeking food and water and safety. The injured ankle will heal, slowly but completely. The juveniles will grow. New members may join the band. Others may leave or die. The pattern of life will continue as it always has. But they will carry something new now. Knowledge, experience, the understanding that intelligence can defeat strength, that coordination can overcome individual weakness, that tools extend capability in ways that biology alone cannot match. They will make more spears, better ones, with improved binding techniques and more carefully selected materials. They will experiment with different stone types, learning which flake most cleanly, which hold an edge longest. They will develop new calls and signals, expanding their communication repertoire to include concepts like coordinated attack and defensive formation. And someday, perhaps in 1,000 generations, perhaps in 10,000, their descendants will stand upright on a distant shore and look across an ocean and think, "What lies beyond?" And they will build boats, and they will sail into the unknown, carrying with them the legacy of an injured female who refused to accept defeat, who faced a crocodile and lived, who stared down lions and made them blink first. The 48 hours are over. The siege is broken. The battle is won. But the war, the endless war between intelligence and instinct, between innovation and stasis, between the new and the ancient, has only just begun. And in that war, despite their small size and physical weakness, despite their vulnerability and their constant struggle against a world that seems designed to kill them, the humans will ultimately prevail. Not today, not tomorrow, not for millions of years, but eventually, inevitably, they will inherit the earth. Not because they were the strongest, or the fastest, or the most specialized, but because one injured female on the banks of an ancient river made a choice. She chose to fight, to think, to plan, to survive not through biology, but through will. And that choice, replicated and refined across countless generations, will reshape the world. The spring bubbles quietly, its waters reflecting the fading light. The band settles in for the night, exhausted but alive, marked by their ordeal but not broken by it. They have no names for what they have accomplished, no words to describe the significance of their victory. But somewhere in their brains, in the neural structures that evolution is only beginning to elaborate, connections are forming, memories are being encoded, lessons are being learned. And the future, that vast and unknowable future, has been changed by the events of these 48 hours in ways that will echo for millions of years. The age of humans has truly begun, and it began here, in blood and pain and desperate innovation, with a choice to fight rather than flee, to think rather than react, to be Homo rather than just another prey species waiting to be consumed. The sun sets, the stars emerge, and in the darkness, a small band of our earliest ancestors huddles together, sharing warmth and comfort, and the unspoken knowledge that they have survived something that should have killed them. Tomorrow they will heal. Next week they will travel. Next month they will hunt. Next year they will thrive. And 3 million years from now, their descendants will look back across the immense gulf of time and wonder at the courage and intelligence of those who came first, who faced the darkness with nothing but stone and stick and stubborn refusal to surrender. This is their story, our story, the story of how humanity survived its infancy, not through accident or luck, but through the deliberate application of intelligence to the problems of survival. 2.9 million years ago, in the East African Rift Valley, a war began. A war that continues to this day, fought not with teeth and claws, but with ideas and innovations, and the stubborn human conviction that intelligence will always, eventually, triumph over brute force. The crocodile did not know it was starting that war. The lions did not understand they were fighting it. But she knew. In her own way, with her limited understanding and her remarkable brain, she knew that something had changed, that the rules of the ancient game had been rewritten, that prey could become predator through the simple application of thought. And that knowledge, passed down through generations, refined and expanded and elaborated, became the foundation of everything that followed. Civilization, technology, art, science, philosophy, all of it traces back to this moment, to this choice, to this first deliberate use of intelligence as a weapon against a hostile world. The battle lasted 48 hours. The victory will last forever.